there. Welcome to this week's edition of Kellyapy, the self-help podcast. Now, this week we have got a really interesting guest. This week we're going to talk recovery. I've been in recovery. I'll be coming up on actually 23 years in a couple of weeks, one day at a time. It's hard to believe, I couldn't even get a day, and now here we are. And on your road, on my road to recovery, I've met some really interesting people. And I thought it would be really cool to bring them into the podcast so they could share some of their experience, strength, and hope with others that might be kind of wondering, okay, what do I do now? Where I'm in trouble. I need help. Where do I go? What do I do? And so this person I'm going to bring to our show today, her name is Melissa, and we're just gonna call her Melissa because that is her name. We're not going to say the last name, just to keep it anonymous. We are both in recovery. We did both come by way of a 12-step program. And so we have a lot in common. So that's kind of where our recovery lies in, the 12-step recovery program. She also is a mom of 4, a triathlete, which is amazing to me because, it kills me to go out and take a walk with my dog in the evening. I can't imagine training for a triathlon, Melissa. And as well, I think one of the really interesting factors that she brings to the table is she's also a nurse, a registered nurse, and works in the health field. So she would have an interesting outlook as well on recovery as she experiences it in her daily work. So with that, I would like to welcome Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for coming in today and spending a little bit of time with us so we can explore recovery. So why don't you just tell us a little bit, just kind of give us a little bit of your story so we can go from there.
Oh, wow. I'm just going to touch on the highlights because I can really I love recovery. So it's really hard to keep it short and simple. But, Kelly, I really struggled a long time. I started with addiction back. I have dated it back, honestly, to the age of about 13 when I had my first root canal, and my mother gave me a Percocet. And it was really, I knew that day that I liked that. And I have chased that high since then. I say I've been clean, but for the grace of God, for 11 and a half years.
Yeah.
But up until then, that really did. I have, it's a family disease. I have a mother, father, stepmother, and of 6, I have 6. There's 6 siblings, including myself. 4 of us are in recovery.
Oh, that's great.
One that's not refuses to drink because she knows she would be, and the other one, we're saving him a seat. So it is, and I say that lovingly. And if he never shows up, that's fine. But it didn't become problematic. It was my solution for a long time that finally did become the problem. After my first child was born, who is now almost 30, he was born with he's special needs. He almost died at the age of 12 days. They had to put him on a respirator. And I really took off from that point. The emotional pain was just too great for me to bear. At the age of 11, he had to leave home because he was not safe to be around the other, at the time, one other child. And that was really how I dealt with that. And once that became the solution or the problem, it continued being the problem for quite a long time. My now 16-year-old turned 1 while I was in an inpatient program Actually, I made them let me go home for his first birthday, which was probably the first mistake I made in recovery. Um,
Well, we're
and
good at manipulating, aren't we?
oh, it just is. I was officially ejected from the program. I was told that I was, how did they word it? I was not satisfactory to their milieu. They felt that I was manipulation with a capital N. So long short, I finally I surrendered my nurse's license in 2004 and was found unsafe to practice nursing, and went into treatment, but I really did not get into treatment and stay until 2009. So it took me almost 4 years to finally surrender to this disease. I can tell you that there is no other way for me, because I would have tried it. If I could have done anything to keep from having to quit running and gunning, I would have. The devastation that I left behind is just really great. And I remember it. I try not to, I don't talk about it a whole lot, except to people within my circle and other women that are struggling, because, we do things that we just wish we hadn't done, but I can't, it finally occurred to me that the only thing I could do about what I had done was to quit doing it.
And the thing is that I think a lot of people don't get, and if anybody who's listening to this podcast is struggling with the thought that they might be an alcoholic, they might be a drug addict. I can speak for myself. You do know, you know, deep down inside, like you said, you kind of knew from that moment that, okay, yeah, I don't do this normally. And no other person's going to understand you like another person just like you. Would you agree with that, Melissa?
Absolutely. And I think the greatest gift, especially for women, because it has been my experience, so many of us women we drive with our children in the car. We do things we use when we're pregnant. We do things that we absolutely are so riddled with shame and guilt that the only thing that releases that is for another woman to nod their head and say, I've been there. I have felt that. I understand. And there are so many of us that do. We just have to make that connection for it to be a safe space to share that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm really glad you brought that up, especially with the women alcoholics out there. That is a big point, because both you and I have worked with many women in our recovery. It's actually part of the deal of being in recovery is that you want to keep it, you got to give it away. There's so many women come in feeling like they're the worst mom in the world because they drank when they were pregnant. They drank with the kids in the car, but that's the disease. They had no choice at the time because they were sick, and that's something they don't understand. I don't think, that you're not a bad person. You're a sick person.
That's a very real, I had a patient just recently who had come in, and that's all I could say to her was, no, you're not a bad person. And she has lost her children to heroin. She had 5 years clean and met the wrong person and has found herself back in that cycle. And my greatest gift now at work, I work in the emergency department, and to be able to just look at someone who is still sick and suffering and say, you are a good person and you're worth it. I still remember the physician who stood the day I had to go and get a physical to be able to go to treatment the third time, looked at me and said, you can do this. You're worth this. And Kelly, that was pivotal for me to actually believe that somebody had faith in me. By the end, I don't think we have a whole lot of faith in much. I had lost all faith in the ability to even take a substance and change how I was feeling. I took so much in the end, and I love the way someone has said, my my body was drunk and my brain was stone cold sober, and I just could not numb any longer while and still be alive. So to find someone who actually thought that I could do this, I think I did go back one day. Early sobriety is still very fuzzy for me. Early recovery. I did let that doctor know just how pivotal that was in my recovery. And I lived by those words for a long time until I could get into the 12-step programs you spoke of and hear it from other women.
Isn't that something though? You never know what you're saying, if it's going to, it needs to, it's that one thing that one person needed to hear at that one time to save their life. You just don't know. I mean, even with this podcast today, Melissa, maybe that is something that somebody needed to hear today. You're worth it. You can do this. You will get this. You just don't know how what an impact you can make on somebody's life just by sitting here telling your story, Melissa.
And it's generational. We don't just make an impact on one person in recovery. We then make an impact on their children and on their children's children. This can be, I've always said addiction is a family disease, but so is recovery. Recovery is a family solution. And I truly believe that. I think that we call it planting seeds, and we don't know who's going to plant that final seed that's finally going to sprout, but we have to try.
And the other thing that I think a lot of people, maybe some people are trying to get sober, trying to get clean, trying to get free from that eating disorder, whatever it is, the demon that they're fighting, and they keep slipping and they keep going back. Like you said, it took you 4 years to, even after losing so much and so much on the line to get this thing. It doesn't always come like that to everybody.
No, absolutely not. And I'll be the first to tell you, if it came that fast for me, I would have gone back out. And really in the beginning, that is what happened. I'd get 2 weeks away from the substance and I'd say, well, maybe I overthought this thing. That really wasn't that difficult. Maybe I'm not that bad. Maybe I should just try maybe doing it on the weekend. So I'd go out and try it that way. And that's what I mean by there was no other way to do this deal by the time I finally surrendered, because it can't be easy for me. Nothing can be easy for me that's worth, my God knows I need a 2x4. And that's been true for most things for me. My accomplishment has always been in the struggle.
And I think that's so true with the beauty of recovery is that the more painful the bottom, the better chance you have. They call it the gift of desperation to be able to come in. And I remember when I first got sober, somebody saying, I hope you're in a lot of pain. And I didn't get it at the time. I'm like, what? This guy's mean.
It's not very nice.
They're not very nice here. But I totally get it now, because you know what? That's where you get the willingness, because it's so easy for anybody who's struggling with any sort of addiction of any sort to be willing to make a change unless they are forced to make a change, like you said.
Absolutely.
There's no other way. It's either that or, for me, the thought of suicide had come in, which I'm sure many people would be able to relate to listening to this. It is an unfortunate thing that a lot of people are so afraid to try the road to recovery that they just choose to check out 100%, which
absolutely. I too have been there. And I think that when we finally reached that point of not knowing how to live sober and not knowing how to live drunk, and we really do see that as a jumping off. That was probably when I realized that if I didn't stop doing what I was doing, I was going to die. And I really didn't want to die. I just wanted to learn how to live.
That's exactly, you said it right there, Melissa. It's exactly it. And I think too, it came down to me as well. And I'm sure you can relate to this. The fear of never drinking again scared me, but the fear of drinking again scared me more. And
Absolutely.
that's what I needed to have, to where I needed to be, to even be willing to take a look at trying what you told me to do, and being willing to do whatever the heck you told me to do. I'm going to do it because I want to feel good again. And these people have found a way out, and I want to know what the secret is. I want to know how they did it. So
I agree completely. And that's what I tried to tell this young lady that I spoke with recently. I said, you never have to feel this way again unless you want to. Unless you want to choose to go another round. The dope sickness is just absolutely horrific. And I see it, and I see it on their faces. And I say, you can stop this at any time. But the only way to stop that cycle is to go into recovery, to stop the substance. And that just sometimes seems to be so huge. I remember the day driving down the Highway 51 when it occurred to me that not only could I not drink again, you could never make me drink again. And that was when recovery flipped for me, because then I wanted to guarantee that I never had to drink again. I felt so good once I hit it took me a while. I was very, very sick in the end. And I remember waking up daily wondering when I would want to live again. And once I did, my biggest fear then was that somehow somebody was going to make me drink or use, because I knew then that I didn't ever want to go back. And
I think you have to keep it as simple too in the beginning, as because the thought of forever not taking a drink was too big to comprehend. But the simplicity of, okay, just don't drink today.
Just today. And it wasn't even 24 hours for me. It was, if I could just get through the time that I was awake. And there were nights I went to bed real early just because I needed to be done. I needed to get through to the next day. But absolutely, that 24 hours at a time is pivotal. And in the beginning, sometimes it was 24 minutes at a time. It just was whatever took me from that thought. They say a craving lasts 18 seconds. If we can just hold on and think of something else, the craving will pass. And I truly believe those who stay sober 24 hours, the only thing different is that they have faith that the feeling's going to pass without giving in.
Now, can I ask, since you're here, I want to get your take on this. Alcoholism versus addiction with the drug addict. There are those who feel that I'm a real alcoholic. To be honest, drugs were really never part of my story, other than, I smoked a little pot here and there. I never did any hardcore drugs. I was too afraid to be honest. But others, I have worked with addicts, taking them through the 12 steps, and it's a whole different ball game. It seems to me it's like hardcore. It was hard for me as an alcoholic to get sober, but something about the drug addict mindset seems to be really super sneaky when the disease gets there. Do you find that, or am I alone on my
thinking? No, we are master manipulators. We have to, and it's funny because I always, and I'm going to be honest, I refer to alcohol because I am so used to interchanging substance, alcohol, drugs. Alcohol was not my preferred drug of choice, but I didn't get real picky if I wanted to change how I felt. But I could drink half a beer and walk away, but only because I had a pocket full of pills. I I would take whatever changed the way I felt. And I always say the list was long and not very distinguished. I've been addicted to jelly beans and cotton candy. I've been as high as 250 pounds. I started binge eating at the age of 5.
Whatever feels that hole. Yeah.
Whatever fills that hole. And if I'm looking for something other than my higher power to fill that hole, I'm already behind the 8 ball. I have a very, very large number of women that are in recovery have eating disorders as well, or have body image disorders. That just seems to be one of our entry level addictions. Many have shopping, sex. If we're looking for anything outside of ourselves to be okay with the inside of ourselves, we are subject to take on any of those things. Working with, in fact, I have women that will call me and say, listen, this young lady has come in, love her to death. I can do nothing for her. She is a pillhead and I know nothing about addiction. And the fact is it's a different level. It's what we lay on the line is greater. We can't go to an ABC store and load up a cart, which was what saved my life, really. If I had been a hardcore alcoholic, I don't know if I could have stopped. If I could walk into a store and say, hand me 90 hydrocodone, and they would, it would have been really, really hard. So part of my gift was my drug of choice was not easy to come by. That being said, the level of desperation to get the drugs can take us to places that just eat away at our soul. Many women in recovery do things that they would ordinarily never do for the sake of getting the drugs. So it's a very, I find we're really good manipulators. And in fact, I was such a good manipulator, I didn't know that's what it was. I remember the night another lady was working with me on some of the steps from one of the 12-step programs. And she just looked at me and said, do you not realize that this is manipulation? And I was like, then that's all I know. I absolutely operated from a manipulative standpoint, and not only in addiction. I'd manipulated all my life. It's a self-protective mechanism for me, if you will.
Yeah, I think with a lot of addicts, it is. My sponsor told me that because we were talking about that, and she explained it to me like this. She said, okay, so if you have an alcoholic and a drug addict and you lose $10, they steal $10 from you. And the alcoholic will eventually feel so guilty that they will not only give you the $10 back, but they will pay you an extra $10 for causing such a hard time. Whereas the drug addict will help you look for it.
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. And you know a drug addict's lying because their lips are moving. In active addiction, we are not an easy bunch to deal with. That is for sure.
One thing I do want to drive home, though, is nowadays, whether you're an alcoholic, drug addict, food addict, sex addict, whatever you have going on, we're all the same. We're all the same in that we are, like we were talking about, trying to fill that hole in the soul that we have. And I think one of the beauties of the 12-step program is it is a spiritual program, and that you do find the solution through a higher power, which I choose to call God. But you can have whatever higher power you choose to have. Somebody has a Neil Diamond as their higher power, whatever
as long
want.
as it's not me.
Exactly. So we're running out of time here, which I could talk to you forever, and I'll probably have you back on eventually, because there's just so much to talk to you about, Melissa. And I'm so glad you took time out of your day to sit down and have this talk on recovery with me, and hopefully it'll help someone out there struggling. What is your message of hope to the struggling addict out there that you would like to leave with?
Oh, wow. Hope is such a big thing. And I think that hope is everywhere. I think hope is a choice. I really do. I think that if we truly get to the point where what we're doing is no longer working and we're willing to risk doing something different, it is never too late. I This disease almost took me out at least 3 times. And the third time, it would have been okay. And that's the heartbreaking part, is when we get that sick, we don't really care, but we really do. We just have lost the ability. We've lost all hope, and we've lost the awareness that that's no longer what we even want. So my hope, my message of hope is, it's absolutely never too late. To look back at where I've been. I was arrested. I lost my career. I didn't lose custody of my children, and that was just because my ex-husband was afraid of me. I didn't have my children in my home when I finally surrendered. I could not have been in a worse place. And today the comparison isn't even. I was a different person. It just was not even a life that I can relate to now, except for to always remember. I'm told if I don't remember, I am subject to go back, which I don't even go there in my head. So, my hope is that it's just never too late. As long as you're still breathing, and as long as you still have the ability to want something different, it's out there. And you will walk into the 12-step program that we speak of. And, people can go in the yellow pages, if they have them, I guess now Google. We're everywhere. There are women everywhere that wake up in the morning, and their sole purpose of their day is to help another woman get sober, get clean, get into recovery. So just don't quit. If what you're doing is not working, if you're tired of what you're doing, we always say, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you keep doing what you keep doing, you're going to keep getting what you keep getting. So if you're ready to get something different, it's never too late. Just come on and join us on this wonderful, wonderful road of recovery. Is it easy? No. Is it simple? Absolutely.
And that's awesome. I like to end the podcast with a final either meditation or prayer or some sort of positive feeling to leave us with. And this one I'm going to read, and I'm sure you are very familiar with this, and just like me, and it's brought a lot of hope and help to a lot of people in recovery. It's the 11th step prayer, also known as the prayer of St. Francis. But it embodies, I think, everything about where the recovery journey will take you. So I'm just going to read this, and then we'll take us out. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. Thanks again,
Amen.
Melissa, so much for coming on and spending this 20 to 30 minutes with us, talking and sharing your beautiful story and message of recovery.
Well, thank you for asking me. You're wonderful. And I love being on this journey with you, Kelly.
Too. So thanks again. Please, please, please keep checking in with us for the Kellyapy podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. We'll be doing this every week. And also check out Monday Messages. Have you had a chance to check out the Monday Messages yet, Melissa?
No, but I am going to do it. It just
Now you're on the spot. Monday Messages is my YouTube vlog, which I talk about positive messages to help you start your week off. Usually they're based in recovery because that's all I know. So once again, thanks again. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week for Kellyapy.